Hello, everyone. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. There's a lot of things been going on today. Lots of stuff. Oh, well, every day is a hoof day. Lots of hoof things going on every single day. Welcome back. I'm Lindsay Setchell. Welcome back to day 36 of the Phoenix Way mini live challenge. Let me just go live on Instagram. There we go. Yes, we're live. So welcome back. As I said, I'm Lindsay Setchell, and this is day 36 of the Phoenix Way mini live challenge. And today we're going to talk about something that lots of people chat about constantly, and that is trimming a hoof in winter versus summer. Now, there are many different variables, including human ones, that can have a significant impact on hoof growth, wear, and overall condition in different seasons. So knowing what to look for and to not so much adjust your trimming, but understand why certain things are incredibly important to be consistent throughout the year ensures that your horse is going to stay comfortable and sound all year round. So let me know in the comments, have you noticed a difference in your horse's hooves between winter and summer? And do you change anything about your trimming routine? Let me know. Let me know so that we can all talk about it. But before that, what should we do? Oh my God, there's loads of you. Let's do some shout outs. Louise is here. Yasinchuk says, just finished watching day 4 of the 10-day challenge and now getting ready for the mini live. Just not enough hours in a day to do what needs to get done. Go for you, hoof hero. I love it. That's absorb yourself in it. The more you learn, the more it will, or the more you expose yourself to it, the more it will go in. And then one day you'll pick a foot up and go, I don't know what's going on. That's fine, because that's all about progress. That's all about learning. So get on you. Well done. I don't have my spinny thing here. Celia's here. She says, I'm here before you started today. Been catching up on other lives. Well done, you. Sunshine says, hello. Heather's here. Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm studying how much I didn't know about the bars from the mini rocket science lesson and Lindsay and Gary's life. You guys are so dedicated. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Sarah's here. Hi, everyone. Deanna's here. Good morning, all. Missed the double lives yesterday, but all caught up. My first challenge club was great, and so nice to meet everyone. It was nice to meet you too. Lydia's here. Hello, everyone from the sunny but freezing Ontario. This will be a very relevant chat today, won't it? Just I was thinking about that because I was thinking about the fact that we have people from 2 different hemispheres that tune in, so it'll be relevant to both of you either way. All of you, rather, either way. Charlotte's here. Hello, everyone. Susan's here. Hi from Germany. Lynn's here. Hello from Maryland. Shannon's here. Hi, everyone. Last day of the cold snap today. Snow, and -12 for tomorrow. That's warm. Oh, my God. Hi, all from France. Bonsoir, says Jeanette. Dawn says, hello, everyone. What are your thoughts on a fractured P3 and having part of it removed? Oh, God. That's a whole new life. Can you park that? And maybe ask that tomorrow on the main live, because that takes a little bit of picking apart, that one, rather than just, because what kind of fracture are we talking about? Are we talking about just a sequestrum? Are we talking about a straight down the middle? Are we talking about a complete break on this? Anyway, park it. More information tomorrow. Is that relevant to you right now? I do hope that's not your horses. Charlotte says, I'm glad it's warming up for you, Shannon. So am I. Jenny Ackerson's here. Hey, all from Sweden. Jeanette says, oh my God, Dawn, I think it sounds scary. Yes, it isn't your horses, is it, Dawn? Flipping heck. Uta says, hi from Germany. We love pets. I'm not seeing a link on Facebook. I don't know. I leave it all to the power of StreamYard. And if it doesn't work, I just it's not me. I don't know what I'm doing. No, I hope it isn't her newest horse. Oh yeah, everybody's saying da, 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 da. Someone I know has had has had this done, Charlotte. I wondered if the horse will ever be right. Said horse injured itself. It can happen when they smack their feet really hard, when they're trying to escape from something that they're trapped in. Hi, friends. Looking forward to another stimulating talk. Me too. Oh, I'm doing it, am I? Oh, damn it. Pia says, hello. Georgie's here. Hello. Camilla's here from Sweden. A couple more. Gail says hello with a pink marigold hand. Ali Halfpenny's here. Dawn says, we love pets. Not my horse, thank goodness. Okay, Angela Garberg's here. Bonsoir. Let's have another one. Anita Pepper's here. It's a hell of a lot colder trimming, not so much fun. Okay, Julie Parkinson. Hello, Julie. It's good to see you, my darling. And Leah. Good morning. Right, let's get back into this, shall we? We're talking about trimming. Oh, got a bit of an itch. A hoof in winter versus summer. Now, very rarely when we talk about this subject, do we talk about how different we might be with our horses or how different our horses might be. For instance, there are so many different variables. For instance, some people, many people, the majority of people ride more in the spring and summer than they do in the winter. So that is an interesting one because hooves, we know, respond very much to external stimuli. They respond to wear, because if they don't respond to wear, then we'd see those bloody nubs all over Facebook, and we don't do it. So that's a factor. Also, there are other factors involved, such as what the horse was eating during the spring and summer, and what they're probably not therefore eating during the winter, or vice versa, what they're eating during the winter, which is probably not what they're eating during the spring and summer. What we are trying to do when we explain and encourage you to keep your horse on a species-specific diet and management, we're encouraging you to, and trimming schedule, we're encouraging you to be consistent. That's the aim of the game, consistency, and not to keep swapping and changing, and not for the horse to be doing this one season, doing that another season. In terms of the riding, that's not always possible, of course, to be consistent. But if you have some kind of setup where you are encouraging movement during the winter, then this is far better for all horses, but including those that have been out doing quite a lot of work with their humans, and then they come into winter. What we don't want them to do, which is what so very often happens, is we just go into no movement at all, and that's crazy. So we've had this horse doing all these different things during the summer, la 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 la, and then they come into the winter, and the livery yard they're out, the barn they're at, says, no, you're not going out now on the grass. No, make it muddy. No. So in you come, stand around for the whole of the winter. Wow. That's not great. And when the hooves finally work out they're not doing much, they are going to just go, well, hey, we're not doing much, right? And then we feed the horse a load of hay and bag feeds, because we feel sorry for it, and lots of fruity licks and chocolate flavored licks and bubbly gum flavored licks and things like that. It happens. It really does. Treat balls, things hanging from the ceiling that they can knock about because they're bored out of their brains, and their guts are doing something different in the winter than they were in the summer and spring, because we've now got different microbes in there because a different thing is happening. We are shoving the horse full of fiber, which needs to be digested in the hindgut, rather than these non-structural carbohydrates that they were scoffing when they were eating grass. So what we are trying to do, and I know that the majority of people that are watching this are going, well, that's not me. Of course not. I hope not. But the majority of people, sadly to say, in the equine world, end up looking after horses like that in an incredibly non-species specific way. And then we wonder why we have problems. Because for some reason, we think that a living, breathing, dynamic, organic organism is not going to respond to the changes that we throw at it when we are inconsistent. Oftentimes in the winter, they're removed from friends. That happens too, creating a huge amount of stress. And they are just not allowed to do the things they were doing in spring and summer. It makes a big difference to animals not having that consistency, because even though the snow might fall in the winter time, the animals that are living out in the Great Basin have been eating fibrous material that isn't lush. You know, they have to go searching. They have to travel a long way to make sure that they get enough in their bellies to keep them going and to survive. That's why they have to move so much. They're not moving so much because they just feel like it. They move because they have to move and go where the grazing is and foraging, and also keep on the move because of predators. So they're not eating lush grass, or they shouldn't be in the spring and summer. They may have a burst of it in the spring, but then it kind of just doesn't grow very tall out there in those harsh environments. And so when it comes into winter, it's tricky too. They've got to go scuffing and scrubbling and move and search for this old fibrous tufted bits and bobs that they can get their muzzles on. So everything gets tougher for our wild animals, very much so in the winter. But they are trying that movement doesn't change. They keep on moving. They're in their herd. So that sort of thing begins to stay very similar for them. But for our domestic horses, we get a lot of change. So you can have growth rate differences, but you can also get horses who grow more in the winter than they do in the summer, and then horses that just are the same all year round. It really just depends on how they are being stimulated. And so therefore, the blanket statement, winter hooves grow slowly, is you'll find it if you Google it. It's just, that's too much of a sweeping statement. It's a generalization, because if you're riding out every single day in the winter like you were riding out every single day in the summer and the spring, then you'd find there's no difference with your horse's hoof growth at all. But does it slow down to the point, if hoof growth does begin to slow down, and I have to tell you, it's not significant, particularly for it to result in extending trimming cycles. Does it slow down to the point where you have nothing to trim? No, it doesn't. It's never the case. And keeping your horses on regular trimming cycles all year round is very, very important. We don't just go, we're going to just, in the winter, we're not going to trim as much. Or trim as regularly. We need to make sure we do. And what other things come along in the winter? Well, wetter conditions, colder conditions. So therefore, we need to make sure these horses are getting the fire in their bellies that they need. And that doesn't come from back feeds. It comes from hay, obviously, fiber, long natural fiber. And we need to make sure that we'll try and make sure that our horses are not sat in boggy ground all the time, that they can get out of that onto a little bit of harder ground. It doesn't have to be hard, but something that isn't so wet and boggy. But if they're moving all the time and that circulation is moving all the time, mud doesn't harm them, but it becomes more of a challenge for us as human beings, particularly when we have awful muddy tracks or awful muddy fields. We tend to hunker down and the horse follows us. We tend to feed in one place and the horse has no option but to stand around in that one place. Like I said earlier, horses that move the distance they do in the wild, they're not doing it just because, hey, let's shall we go for a 20-mile hike today? It's not like that. They go, like, we better keep moving because I've got a baby to feed, and we really need to make sure that we're feeding the whole herd. The whole herd is fine. So it's really important that when you hit wintertime, you try as hard as you can not to change your routine. So if the snow is falling down on the ground, you should, and it's darn cold, you should still be thinking about on that track putting hay out so they move. That's important. You should still be thinking when it's really muddy, how can I get to those different areas of the track to still encourage movement? With horses on muddy tracks, the moment that you spend a couple of days going, oh, I'm not going to feed them around the track because it's just too much hard work. I'm going to feed them in the barn. It's really difficult to get them going again sometimes. Sometimes you have to just go, right, well, I can't, they won't leave the barn now. No, because they've been used to you going. Horses are nothing but easy for an easy life animals, right? So if you feed them in the barn and they think, well, I'm not going anywhere, then you go, oh, please go around the track. No, not if you're going to feed me here all day long. Oh, right. Well, just in case you don't go around the track, I'm so terrified that you might not get enough food. I'm going to feed you in the barn more. These are the things that happens, and it tends to usually be down to us. Now, hoof texture and hardness. In the summertime, hooves are really quite dry. They're hard. I mean, they're not dry because there's a lot of moisture in a hoof, but they can feel harder and they can appear more resistant to wear. Well, a horse in the wintertime is more, sorry, not the wintertime, in the summertime, when they're going over more material, is more likely to compact. Okay. They're more likely to compact more in their sole. So that's something we have to be really aware of. And if we've got our ponies, they tend to be the ones that really suffer from this more so. I mean, other horses do, of course, but ponies really do suffer. If we've got ponies who aren't the ones that are being ridden, it's the big horses that are being ridden. And the ponies are the ones that have had a few attacks because the feet haven't been great. So they're the ones that aren't moving quite as much. They're going to compact more, which means that in the summertime, and you've all said this, it's really hard to get anything out of them because they're so dry and hard, or they feel hard. I suppose dry, I shouldn't use that word. They feel really hard. And so you've got a battle on your hands. And so what tends to happen is people don't do enough. They do less. And in the winter, when things become a little, a lot more moist, and you can see a lot more exfoliation after the summer due to that increase in moisture from rain or snow or muddy ground, then it seems easier to trim. Although I have to tell you, there have been studies done where they don't find an appreciable, is that the right word? I can't think of the word. Appreciable. It is that, isn't it? Difference. For some reason, my brain's saying that's not right now. I don't know. Difference in moisture content in hooves when you change from summer to winter. So it's not really that seems to be having more of an effect, and more it seems, that's why when I was saying drier, I was trying to change my words. It's more to do with the fact that you don't need as much compaction there, because they do need a certain amount of compaction. You will find that horses that live in the Great Basin do have quite thick soles, whereas horses that live in our domestic environment don't tend to have quite as thick soles. But that is variable between horses too. And so we have to be very careful about making blanket statements. Horses that live on tracks, even when they get to mud, will oftentimes, our horses, they can have quite hard feet too in the wintertime, because their feet are being well exfoliated, abraded. They are getting just as much movement and wear through now gritty mud as they did in the summertime. So it really just depends on your environment, your terrain, and so many other things. But one of the things that is incredibly important is consistency, because if you aren't trimming your horses correctly every trim, every season, you are going to struggle when it comes from the winter into the summer. So we always say, take advantage of times when you feel it's easier to trim, when it's not so compacted and feels so hard, by making sure that your bars are down where they need to be. Many people, when they're rehabbing horses, find out that they feel that they're trimming to the hard sole plane, and then their horses go out and do quite a bit of exfoliating, because now we're down to the hard sole plane, so now they're able to exfoliate, and then they go, oh my god, those bars seem to have popped up in just a few days. It's not really what's happening. The bars are growing, but they're exfoliating a bit more sole now, and they'll exfoliate more of that in a priority over walls, because they're slightly harder because of the way that the matrix of the horn tubules and the intertubular horn is made up. So I think it's very important that we don't just use blanket statements, and we prepare ourselves for drier weather, warmer, hotter weather, by making sure that we have the optimum foot coming into different seasons, and we don't change our trimming schedule, because the moment we get a little bit that's fine, we don't need to do as much, that's when we start to have issues, because we take our eye off the ball. So understanding that seasonal effects are often really the effect of our impact on the horses and the fact that they're not moving as much, rather than it just being a seasonal change. Therefore, then we can understand and implement the best trimming strategy for our horses, season in, season out, year in, year out. Okay, should we do a few more shout outs? My last farrier told me they grow faster in spring. I had kept the same trim scale, and he showed up and said they grew a lot. Then he said they grow more in summer. It is to do with the weather, in terms of whether it's getting drier, harder ground, getting a bit more compaction, and how much movement they're getting. It's not really about a blanket statement of when they grow more than others. It's not really like that. And you know about growth rates, because you know that if you take the toe away, if you are battling with that right now, and put it in the comments if you are, so let's hear it. If you're battling with horses that have had their toes removed, you will know that it takes an incredibly long time for their toe wall to get down to the ground, yet their heels seem to be trotting along nicely and getting far too long in between trims, because you're leaving it probably too long. But that's what happens. You get this disparity in growth rates. People will say that doesn't happen. Oh my, it does. The people who say it doesn't happen do not leave toes long to find out. When I say long, I mean grounded. That's probably a better term. Because when you're trying to get that toe wall down to the ground in order to encourage more sole depth right underneath P3, which has now been compromised, you're like that. Ooh. Well, maybe next trim. Oh, maybe next trim. 6 months later, maybe next trim. That's how damaging it is to remove toe wall. It's not just a case of, toes grow, or the wall grows a centimetre a month, it'll be down in a moment. No, because you're now trying to counterbalance the heels, which are now going at the normal rate, and the toe isn't. And so because of that, every time you adjust, the toe wall goes back up in the air. Every time you adjust, the toe wall goes back up in the air, and it creeps down. So it is like that 3 steps forward, 1 step back kind of scenario. So it's really, really important. Georgie says, winter equals constant mud equals feet not so good. Now, this is another interesting thing, because wintertime, we're always told the horse's feet fall to pieces in the winter. That's not so. If you've got a healthy hoof, they shouldn't fall to pieces in the winter. The mud isn't evil. It's not going to root its way in there. The problem is that if that horse has been eating grass all spring and all summer, it hasn't got the best quality of foot. They are going to have things like thrush creep in. And if they've also not been trimmed correctly, because it's now harder to trim them in the spring and summer, particularly in the dry, hot summer, then you're not going to take as much off as you should, perhaps. And so therefore, you're going to likely get balances wrong. And then you're going to get more rotation, which means more separation, which means in the winter, the horse is going to get more problems. The bars are going to not be dealt with correctly, which means in the winter, they're likely to get more abscesses because you've got more infection creeping underneath those bars, creeping into the white line. All of that is a knock-on chain event, and if chain reaction, and if you just make sure that you're consistent all year round and you're trimming correctly, regularly, balancing properly, blah 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 blah, then you shouldn't have the problems in the winter that everybody says that you should have. So Louise says frogs not shedding as much as and easier trimming the bars because sole and bars are softer. Well, they do shed. They get flappy, don't they? You can see them, they get flappy. Mud is an incredibly good exfoliator. If you go and take your wellies and your socks off and you go marching around your muddy field, you will soon find that when you come back and feel the bottom of your foot feels lovely and soft because it's exfoliated, because it's gritty. Again, we have to be very aware that each season things are going to happen. The frog isn't going to look like it contains as much moisture in the summer. It's going to appear more drier in the summer, more leathery perhaps than it is in the winter time. But that doesn't mean to say that it's behaving differently. It's still behaving. It's still replacing horn, frog horn, bar horn, wool horn, sole horn. It's happening all the time. It can't stop. None of that can stop, but it can change in terms of, like we found out with the toe, it can change in terms of growth rate, in terms of how it responds. Judy says, hello from Wisconsin. Hello, Judy. Alexandra's here. Good sunny morning from New Zealand. Lovely to hear from you. Ramona's here. Hello. Jeanette says, hoof growth appears to slow down in the winter, less wear stimulation on wet ground. See? Alison says, especially since on tracks and hay, there's little difference in growth or trim. Ba-dum! One of my Iberian mares grew a whole capsule October to April, i.e. winter. You got it. It's consistency that's the key, because we change. And we make more of an impact on our horses through the seasons than our horses would if they were just naturally left to crack on with it. Okay. Tara says, hey. Meta says, hi from Denmark. Good to see you. Sandra's here. Hi, I'm late, everyone. It's fine. Melanie says, late. I'm also late, Melanie McCrow. I was telling it, you're saying that about yourself. Marianne's here. Hello. Laura Shillam's here. Hi. Gail says, ice and snow build upon the stretch portion of his toe. I feel this messes with the balance. Right. Yeah. Now, this is an interesting thing, and it does happen. You're quite right. That the area that is the lamella wedge area is the softest part. If we're going to talk about softness, it is the softest part in the entire foot, actually, because the white line isn't, it's not hard, it like it is in the hoof wall and in the sole. It is more pliable. And that's fine if you have got just a couple of mil of white line, because you've got enough of the epidermal lamellae which is filled in with the intertubular horn that is created by the terminal papillae, and that's fine. You've got that. But when that starts to go and you've got confused material inside, then that can depress actually quite a bit, and that can capture snow. It really can. And it's funny because over here in our probably more temperate zone in Europe, UK and Europe, we don't tend to experience that as much. But it is interesting connecting with so many of you that live in such harsh, snowy environments for such long periods that doesn't let up. That's what you have to experience with these horses that are rehabbing. it just has to be a daily task. You just have to go there out and knock it off. When you're rehabbing these horses and these equines that have got stretch, you just have to go out there and you just have to knock it off. Because yes, it will build up and then it will affect balance. One thing you can say though, it's going to affect it more that way than it is that way. So that is, I suppose, one thing. My two are pretty much the same growth wise. It's just colder, wetter job. Yeah. And we don't feel like it quite as much. And it's harder to get the wheelbarrow round because it's muddy. So I used to take my wheelbarrow around the middle of my field. So I was on the inside. So it was easier for me to get around. But yeah, these are the things that make the difference. It's not the horse, really. It's just the horse responding to what we're doing. Christy Ruggles is here. Very interesting. Every farrier I've ever said has said that hooves grow slower in the winter. I can tell you, as a hoof care professional who encourages natural movement consistency throughout the year, we don't see the difference, you see. But if you're a farrier and you're shoeing and the horse isn't having so much activity perhaps in the winter, there are so many different variables, shoeing or no shoe, or maybe they're taking that from the hind feet because they're not shoeing the hind foot, or maybe they're not shoeing at all, and maybe this is just something that they've been told, and so whether they just assume, you don't know. But I know that it has been written very many times. And so, you know, the old Chinese whispers in the hoof care world, because the hoof care world loves Chinese whispers. So that could be what they're experiencing, perhaps. But what I can tell you is when you keep horses the way that we encourage, more species specific, imagine the horses in the Great Basin, right? It's harder for them in the winter. They have to travel more. In fact, sometimes to get to the food to keep them alive, because it's no party living in the wild. It's hard, harsh and hard. Do you think they're going to stand around in the winter and not move much? They're going to move. And so if that was the case and their hooves weren't growing as fast in the winter as they were in the summer, what would happen to them? They'd wear their feet off. They'd end up being bloody nubs. Well, that wouldn't be any good, would it? So we just have to kind of think a bit more laterally about reasons for those kinds of that rhetoric, that kind of information, that narrative that's put into the equine world. I would think they would grow and need trimming sooner in the winter if they are stalled, because they aren't wearing them down. I have noticed that with my gelding. I'm not sure about the mares. Yeah. And, you know, you've only got to spend your life taking off shoes, which is what we do when we're rehabbing horses that have been shod. And you look at, and that horse was shod like 5 weeks before. And you look at the foot and you go, oh my God, there's just so much to do, usually. More often than not, there's a ton more to do. And when owners come to our in-person workshops, and we always, well, in the UK, it's going to be different in Australia and New Zealand and the States, because I don't know what I'm going to get. I don't know if we're going to get lots of shods or lots of bare feet. Hopefully there'll be a good mixture of the two. We make sure there's a good mixture of the two when we're doing our UK workshops. And there's a big difference. Most people find a massive well, they just do, right? They're trimming. We give them the bare hooves to trim first, and they're trimming away. And they're like, oh, God, you know, really getting to grips with and getting really focused on their cadaver leg and really getting into it. And then the next day we give them a shod foot to do. And so, like I say, it might change a little bit when we're at the other workshops, because we don't know, we're not in control of what we're going to get. And they go, ugh. Oh, it's a bit more smelly more often than not. Usually you'll get the odd shod foot there's barely anything to do because it's been scalped, but usually it goes the other way, and with far too much at the heel and nothing going on at the toe because it's been removed and really taken away. And they just pick out the hooves. They just take the shoe off and then just stare at it going, wow, what a difference. In general, what a difference between those bare hooves, that some of them were overgrown, but what mainly the huge difference is the amount that I have to trim, and the fact that there's so much more pathology. in these shod ones. And we see it over and over and over. I mean, years, 14 years, 15 years I've been doing these workshops, and it's never changed. Never. And that's a whole different live and chat. That is, well, maybe we'll talk about that as we move on. We've got so much. We've got so many. We've got 364 days minus 30. What are we on? 36. I can't. I'd have to ask Tim to do that because I can't do it off the top of my head. Winter trimming is so much. What would that be? 300 and what would it be? 364 minus 36 is 328. Winter trimming is so much longer because of cleaning all the mud off first. Yeah, and you know what? Tools. Your tools get more knackered in the winter if you don't clean them. So I have a metal brush. I rarely use a metal brush on anything other. I sometimes use it on the hooves, but it's really for my tools, to clean the teeth in the rasp, which the other day I couldn't even think of the word for that. To clean the teeth of the teeth in the rasp, and to keep my knife clean, and to keep my nippers clean. And then in the winter, I have to use WD-40 to spray my tools so that they remain clean and they don't go rusty, which is a bit difficult sometimes if for you guys, if you're not using your tools very much. So if that's the case, in the winter, keep them clean after the trim, spray them full of WD-40, wrap them up in a towel until next time, and that will keep them nice and sharp and well looked after. Hi, Lindsay, says Patty. Hi to you all. Good to see you, Patty, from Uruguay. Anita says, would seasonal changes in circulation affect hoof growth rates? That's never been proven, but surely circulation has got also a direct impact on, or movement has got a direct impact on circulation, and horses are movement animals. They should be moving all the time. That's how Mother Nature designed them. You stick them in a stable, you're going to cause all kinds of awful problems. Anyway, are you directly thinking about the AVA shunts? Are you directly thinking about when the horse tries to thermoregulate? Well, they're doing that in the summer too, remember, because if hooves get too warm, they have to try and cool them down, and it's vice versa. So those AVA shunts and that circulatory system are working hard no matter whether you're in the winter or the summer. For those horses that are standing around and that have issues. This is why they wanted to start, why they've been so confused about supporting limb laminitis. You know, you never hear when they're talking about, so God, don't get me off on it. You never hear when they're talking about supporting limb laminitis about them talking about the state of the hooves when that horse went in to start having to stand on one limb. You never hear about that. Anyway, should we carry on? So, keep consistent all year round. Keep the movement, the management as consistent as you can all year round. Avoid over trimming or under trimming. Make sure that your trimming is to that horse's natural foot all year round. Don't adjust your trimming because you need to make sure, well, so I said don't adjust your trimming, don't adjust the guidelines, right? Don't go, oh, I don't quite need it to the hard side. Yes. Because if you don't do enough, that horse will compact. If you don't trim regularly enough, that horse will compact, and that horse will go out of balance. And that will cause a knock-on effect when you're coming into other seasons. So be absolutely regular about it. Do not give up just because it's a different season. Watch out if your horse has been having sugary grass during the spring and summer. You think it's been going just fine, and then you get into the winter and it's starting to get abscesses galore, and it's got thrush and it's got this. Watch out for that. Be cognizant of that. Don't think that you can just it doesn't matter, because it does. Diet makes a massive impact on the health of the animal and their feet. So make sure that you're regularly monitoring. You don't have to go picking it out every day. I don't need you to go and do that, but just make sure you're regularly monitoring it. So I'm telling you, don't adjust your trimming frequency unless you've got a poorly animal, and that doesn't matter what season it is, and you need to adjust for that anyway. So Stay on top of the hooves. Be mindful of the fact that when it gets harder in summer, you need to make sure your hoof is well prepared and well trimmed during the winter. Okay, don't ever skimp on what you're doing. And you can monitor increased wear if you like Alison said, and a couple of others. You can start checking, and what you'll find is once you get trimming the feet, because the other thing with this little Chinese whisper is that how many of those horses are trimmed naturally, and how many of them are trimmed PPT, with the people that tell you that horses just slow down in the summer or they just slow down in the winter. If you're trimming regularly correctly to that horse's natural foot, you'll actually find there's very little difference. It really is. When those horses are on that on a correct, consistent, species-specific diet management, all of those sorts of things. So you don't have to go out and change your trimming strategies. You need to keep as regular as possible. Sounds a bit funny, doesn't it? Keeping it as regular as possible. Oh, very quick look on Instagram, see who's joined us. Oh, goodness me, loads of people. Snoopy Stars here, Von Metch here, Sarah KFH is FKH. Depas Moore's here, Cabellero. Hello again from Switzerland, says Snoopy Star. Rachie Dale's here. Where can I find the 10-day challenge? If you can DM us, we can send you the link, or you can, if you're in the 15-day challenge, just go and have a look at the guidebook. If you haven't found the 15-day yet, you need to do that one first. So just get in contact, or you can find it if you go onto Facebook and join the Phoenix group. Helwig's here, Gabriella, Caddy Kurtz here, Jerome Veltman's here, loads of others that I can't quite pronounce. Snoopy Stars says, a fine snow is great. It helps reveal the different structures on the hoof. Yes, I was only talking about that today with a student. So the takeaway from this session, you don't need to adjust your trimming, and certainly not your trimming schedule, but you need to be more cognizant of what's going on with your horse, you as an owner, perhaps if you're trimming for other clients, what they are doing, how they're changing their diet, their management, all of those things have an effect. It's more the human's impact on the horse than it is the horse itself. Okay, so for today's mini challenge, this is a year's challenge. You're going to be taking photographs, you're going to be trimming, and you're going to be thinking back to this session when we get to the end of the year, because you'll have gone through the spring and the summer and you'll have experienced what I'm talking about. So then you can check if you can see any difference in growth rates. But remember, a lot of these Chinese whispery rhetoric, kind of mythy kind of things, or not necessarily a myth, but where they've been developed into something more than they should have been, have come from the world of PPT. They haven't come from the world of species-specific trimming to the horse's natural parameters, natural constants. Okay, well done. That's day 36. Oh, goodness me, I'll be an hour in a minute. Hope this session has given you some insights into thinking a little bit more laterally when we're talking about seasonal changes and how that impacts hoof trimming and the adjustments that you think you might need to make. If you found today's session helpful, please like, share, follow, subscribe, so that we can help learn, keep us learning together, and we can help others learn if you tag them and get them to come and watch these free little nuggets that we do every single day. All right, remember, the Phoenix Way is about growing stronger together. So keep working with those seasons rather than against them. Until next time, take care of yourself and your horse, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care now. Bye-bye. Bye.